Okay, clap if you can hear me now. Okay, so let's start that little intro over. Okay, my name is Deanna. You're in the Laughter After Drama show. And I'm a speaker, educator, entertainer, and coach that just brings light and lightness to a heavy topic of trauma. I am a thriver after IPV, which is intimate partner violence. And my journey led to me just finding the beauty and the laughter after in the healing. And so I believe that we all have this power as self healers. I think we all have that magic within us. And I believe it is really important to highlight people who have experienced their own traumas. I think right now we are also living in a time where pretty much everybody has experienced some trauma after this past couple of years. And so this is me showcasing everyday people who have triumphed in the face of trauma. And I am providing hope, awareness, connection, and community here, sharing the laughter after. This month in April here in the US is the National Month of Hope, as you may have seen highlighted in the Fireside newsletter and in some of the posts. So that is how I'll be highlighting people all month, just bringing you hope and showing you that if we can, so can you. Okay, so that's enough about me. Let's bring Kristina onto camera because the guest today, it's all about her. So let's see. Let me click here and invite to video, and we'll get her up on the stage here so she can come on. Kristina, before we get started with everything, we're going to do a little bit of intro about you. I'll embarrass you a little bit because you'll be right here on screen while I do it. But I like to do it like that because I think people need to connect the face with the things. So Kristina is the owner of BlueSkys Beauty, and that is skies with a Y, and that is not a typo. That is on purpose because she is all about understanding your why. Why do you live where you live? Why do you work where you work? Who are you? Why do you do the things you do? After a long career in corporate America and some devastating losses and some health challenges in her life, Kristina needed a change. And so she founded a passion project, which she calls BlueSkys Beauty. And BlueSkys Beauty is a clean, plant-powered based beauty brand that will help you feel beautiful from the inside out. And she is on a mission to help women step into their skin with confidence and embrace their beauty, or they're beautiful at any age, any size. So welcome, Kristina. I appreciate it. Kristina is coming to us from where? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Canada. That's why I'm wearing a warm sweater and you're wearing a sexy off the shoulder top. Because I know you were in New Orleans. I'm like, damn, I don't look sexy. But yeah, I'm all covered up. It's still cold here. It's not cold, but spring is beginning to spring. I'm just outside Toronto. So in Ontario, Canada, I don't know, it's still pretty gray here, but I'm trying to find the blue skies as much as possible.
Oh, good. So tell us a little bit. Do you have kids? What about your family?
Yeah, well, number one, I'm a Fireside virgin, so this is my first time. So if I have any tech issues, that's why.
Hop in the
But
Fireside, Jerry. Okay. That's good. We're good.
I, I love it. I have a 21-year-old daughter who's about to turn 22. Her name's Chloe. Chloe Louise. I named her after absolutely nobody in my family. Everybody names somebody after some Viking, or a queen of Sweden, or which I am. But I named her after a fashion brand, and my parents are like, what? But yeah, that's my daughter. And I don't know, what else can I tell you? Yes, BlueSkys Life and Beauty. I launched that during the pandemic. It was a passion project of mine because I'm passionate about therapeutic cannabis, in particular CBD, which we can probably get into later about the whole why and everything. So there's definitely a why behind the company. I was formerly, or I would say never say never, go back to corporate, but I was working in corporate America for 20 plus years in marketing communications for the top banks. Maybe a little dry of a job, but I always tried the fun side, and I always did have a lot of fun in general, but it was very high pressure, high stress. And then I worked for a small life science and public cannabis company which was a little more fun until it got not fun because, funding and so on kind of dried up, especially during the pandemic. But so that's really, I guess, the short story, which I can talk to a lot more, which I know we're going to get into. So
Yeah, we will. But let's do just one little icebreaker because I think the little this or that thing is something that helps people to kind of, it breaks the ice, but it gives people a little insight into you. And so I'm going to ask the first one because you're in Canada. So this one is going to be interesting for me. So are you a beach or mountain person? We're going to do the little this or that show.
that is really hard for me to answer. I would say, oh, I'm a scuba diver, so I'm going to say beach, but I still like to hike.
Yeah. So
But you
it
can
doesn't
pee
mean
in
you
the
don't
ocean.
like.
You can pee in the ocean. You can't pee easily when you're hiking. I always have that. My friends always call me wee bladder. But I know that's maybe TMI, a little TMI, but I'm trying to be funny. But yeah,
It's
so
fine.
I have my wetsuit. So, but I love scuba diving. It is totally a whole new world underneath there. So I get to escape from realities of life.
Well, that's good. I like that too. That's cool. I'm totally a beach person myself. I mean, it's not that I don't like the mountains. It's just, I just like the beach more. If I had to choose, that's where I'd be. All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay. All right. Healthy, the healthier choice. Although I would argue that, but we're not going to get into that argument. All right. And then the last one, and this one's something that's interesting because I find this with beach people. So are you like a book in your hand person or an audible person?
Ooh, I like Audible. I mean, I used to love books. I still do love books. I buy books, but then I end up listening to them. But I do when I go to the beach, I have my book with me in hand. Yeah. When I'm walking, I have my Audible on. But on the beach, I read. I like books. I like magazines. I like that tactile holding on to something. It's just that old school kind of vibe. I don't know, especially on the beach. It's really speaks to being down, like downtime, because you don't have to rush. You're not trying to multitask. So I like the book on the beach, but otherwise I like the audible books.
I love it. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's dive into some of your story because I want people to understand what brought you to Blue Skies Beauty and the name Blue Skies because I know there's some meaning behind that. So tell us a little bit about your story as far as the background of what you went through and how you arrived to where you are.
Gosh, yeah, that's a loaded question. So I got married when I was young, 21, to my sweetheart. I was 15 when I met him. His name was John, very Italian, 5 years and a bit older than me. And so I got married at 21. My whole life, I wrapped around him, my identity. He loved motorcycles. We both rode, but it was really more his passion than mine, to be honest. Um, and when I was 24 and he was 29, so he never actually reached 30, he passed away in a really awful motorcycle vehicle accident on a country road. And so I became a widow. I literally identified him. I know that sounds a bit triggering, but in pieces. I was able to donate his eyes. Like that was the only body part that I was able to.
Oh,
But
wow.
he had beautiful blue eyes, and even though he was Italian, and at least some young man was able to have eyesight because of him. But it was really, really hard because you can imagine Italians love an open casket. So yeah, that was really rough. And then I had to literally move out of our home, I'll call it my condo that we lived
So
in.
pause for 1 second. I just want to reiterate. So you were 24 at this time?
Yes, 24 years old.
Okay, so that is, yeah, so that's really young to have to deal with that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, obviously, my world came crashing down. I was angry at the world. I was devastated. I was depressed, suicidal, with all sorts of things. It was. I quit my job even though I shouldn't have because I was just life had no meaning. Like it's almost like everything seemed ridiculous to me, including just I didn't even want to eat. I didn't want to drink. I started literally starving myself to death. I don't talk about it a lot, but I really just wanted to die. So yeah, that was really, really hard. And then as we were moving the contents out of my condo, I there was just this barren parking lot, to be honest. And I saw this little strip of grass, and I just lied down on it on my back, and I started crying. But it was a beautiful blue sky day. And I just looked up at the sky, and I thought, it's kind of been, everything's going to be okay. Like, everything's going to be okay. Just hold on to, hope, and keep going. That's sort of been my talisman since, and I've carried that with me, because whenever I see a blue sky, not only makes me think of him, but it also just makes me feel that feeling, because we've all had our ups and downs, and I certainly had more to come, and during the pandemic, even again more. But that blue sky always gave me a sense of hope, sense of optimism, a sense of unlimited potential even. So it had a real meaning for me. And yes, and I did name my company with a Y because it is all about your purpose. So blue sky is spelled with a Y, and I do know how to spell, yes.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I did kind of ask myself that. Now we've talked personally, so I kind of knew a little bit of the story behind it, but it was like the first time I saw it, I was like, blue skies with a Y? What is happening here?
Well,
And
definitely a conversation starter if you know how to spell.
there you go. If you know how to spell. Okay, so you found yourself in a place where you had to move out of this condo, though. Like you weren't able to keep it financially. Is that was the reason?
Yeah, that was part of it. And so we sold it. I guess I like to say we, because it was ours. I went through a lot, like, gosh, I mean, I was drinking a lot of wine. I used to collect wine. I think I drank every single one. And the ones I didn't drink, I smashed against the wall, to be honest. And I made a big mess of things. So I had to clean it up. Just the grieving, it's just brutal. Like, it's like a sense of homesickness that you never get over. And I was like, even smelling his cowboy boots. Like, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, he's probably laughing at me because I'm so ridiculous. Here I'm smelling his boots. But even then, when he passed away, he was a real jokester and prankster. So I really kept thinking during the funeral, like, I'm going to wake up, this is a bad dream, or he's going to sit up in the casket and this is going to be some sick, weird, twisted joke of his. But it wasn't, unfortunately, obviously. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was my first experience with, like, other than my grandmother passing away and my grandparents, of real grief and, not knowing what to do. I'm just a young girl, right? And just devastated and not sure my direction or where I was going, or, eventually I did settle into a little home that we had actually looked at purchasing. So it happened to be still, so I moved in there. It's a tiny little house here in Burlington. I'm not there anymore, but yeah, I built a little home for me. And ironically enough, the driver of the vehicle, just when I was getting my life a little bit back together, it was maybe a year after, I get a knock on the door, and I'm served with a letter suing me for $1 million for his grief and anxiety that my husband caused because he hit him. So unbelievable. Like, yeah.
Wait, pause. I don't know this part of the story. So your husband on his motorcycle hit a car?
Well, I mean, that's debatable who hit who, but it was a head-on collision. I mean, yeah, so there was no...
Yeah, because I find that very debatable, and I have people who around me who have ridden and have driven motorcycles, and yeah, I would find that very debatable. But yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so he was suing
make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And, this has happened before. I've read about this after, because I'd never heard of this before. And of course I was like, hysterical, because we didn't have coverage for that. Back then in Canada anyway, we had the minimum, which was like $25,000, which like covered his motorcycle and some other, and, helped pay for a funeral, but that was about it. But at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, you can sue for trauma induced, even if it's your fault, to when you hit somebody, which is ridiculous. So he did actually win, not $1 million, but he won a lot more money than I ever received. So, which was ridiculous, but I didn't have to go to court at least, but it was all dealt with the insurance. I don't know how they all dealt with it, but at the end of the day, that was just quite upsetting, because to know that someone gained monetary, benefit from hitting him. And I never received, a letter or anything from him saying he's sorry or anything like that. So, you kind of have all this anger and this toxicity that's kind of building up. Like it's just now, now I'm angry at not that I wasn't, I was already upset about the whole thing, but now it's revisited itself and reared its ugly head. So anyway, I was, I got past it, and I really became, I started freelancing and started my own marketing consulting company at the time. So because I wanted some freedom in my life, I was working so hard before for other people. So that's how I started my own company in the beginning. And then I met somebody through work at the same time, just as I was leaving that other company. And he was quite a bit older than I was, but he was friendly, very empathetic to my situation. And I guess, there was a part of me that wanted, someone just to feel safe with, because I was young and I was like, I guess, I was getting a lot of predatory men that seemed to think that I needed to be satisfied, if you know what I mean, which was freaking me out because I was, very sheltered. I only had one boyfriend in my life. And so I ended up, he ended up moving in with me, which wasn't ideal, to be honest. And then I ended up marrying him just because I didn't know anything else. But at the end of the day, I did love him very much. Unfortunately, he had his own demons as well, like gambling, alcohol. Now, not to say I was not drinking. I do like my wine and my bubbles. But when I stopped drinking, he kept drinking. So then I realized there's a problem, but I'm already married to him. So we had a dog.
So how old were you? How far down the line was this?
I think I was 20, I'm so bad with like years and stuff, but I think I was 26 when I was married to him, and I turned 20, or maybe I was 27. It was around
20.
No, so I was just turning 27, and I got pregnant right away on our honeymoon, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fun times. So we know you enjoyed your honeymoon. So that's good. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of a timeline. So it was 3 or so years, maybe a little bit more than 3 years after your husband had passed, that you were working, met this guy, and he was older than you, but you guys wound up hitting it off, and you guys wound up getting
I actually met him
and pregnant.
Yeah, I met him right after. Like I already knew him through work because he actually knew my husband too. So I knew him. So there was a sense of like, familiarity. So, and he moved in probably within a year and a bit into my home. So it was obviously too soon for me, but what happened. So, and then I got married to him. Yeah. Like 2.5 years later.
Yeah. All right. And so, where did that take you?
Well, not in good places because I mentioned that he had addictive tendencies. So before I knew it, he kind of had racked up our credit lines with gambling and so on. I don't like to talk to, I did care about him. I loved him very, very much, but he had so many demons that it was really, really hard. So when Chloe was a bit older, we never divorced or anything, but I had to take him off the credit lines. Obviously, there was a lot of fighting involved with all of that. And we had moved to a different home, which he kept saying to me that the other home that I had before, the small, I'll call it cottage, I guess, didn't feel like home to him. So little did I know really that was the intent, because he wanted his name on the deed, right? So when we moved to the new place, even though again, I paid, all of that was mine, but now I put his name on it, right? So it made things very challenging, but we ended up kind of, I would say, separating, but we never divorced, and he was still over all the time. We still had a very close relationship, but he was like the guy that I still loved him. Like I couldn't stop loving him. That's the problem, but I couldn't live with him anymore. And he was still the guy that I call when anything went wrong. We talked almost every day. If not probably every other day, but not just about our daughter, but even when I had a car accident or something, I'd call him. I wouldn't call my dad. I'd call him. It was just that we had that closeness, and I still considered him my best friend, even though he had done things. It's just, he had illnesses that I could not fix. And, I remember marrying him thinking, oh, I could fix him. Now you can't fix anybody, unless they have to want to be fixed themselves, and they have to do that within. So that was really, and so unfortunately, 2016, he passed away very suddenly on Valentine's
Mm.
Day, which, yes, not
Oh,
the best of days to have our heart attack, literally on Valentine's
right.
Day. hmm So, yeah, that was ironic in itself, really. And I remember trying to call him and he wouldn't answer his phone. And I thought, oh, he's mad at me because I didn't call him right away on Valentine's Day. Because I didn't call him till like the day. And normally I would have called him, but um, it's kind of crazy. I was like skiing and with my daughter. It was just one of those days. It just didn't happen. And so I called him. And then unfortunately, his brother and we found his body then, 2 days later. So it was not
Mm.
fun. Obviously, the worst moment in my life, the absolute worst moment in my life was telling my daughter that her father was never coming home. Like that by far
How
was,
old was she?
she was 15. So,
Hmm.
I mean, she'd been used to not having him there all the time, but he would come see her every few days. And he was still, the fun dad, right? I had to do all the hard, heavy lifting and everything. And I never asked him for anything, but he was the fun dad. He was the one that would take her to Disney World, even though I paid for it. But he would take her to Disney World. He would, take her to singing classes. He would just be the
Hmm.
fun guy, right? And I was the
Hmm.
the mom, like, do your homework and eat your vegetables. So,
Right.
yeah, so it was, he still got to have that, I guess that title, I guess, fun dad. But yeah, that was really the worst moment in my entire life. Was I took her out of school and she was wondering like, what's going on? I didn't even know how to, how do you tell someone? How do you tell your daughter or
Hmm.
your child that?
Hmm.
Um, just
Yeah, no,
there's
I
no
can't.
word.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I don't. I would say with my ex that I have, a workable relationship. My kids are grown now, but it's. I still don't think that I could. I can't imagine. So yes, I can't imagine having to say that, and also having to go through again another cycle. I mean, you love who you love, and that's a switch that you can't turn off. And so also understanding that as being somebody who was close to you, that you still connected with, and you are dealing with a loss as well. So um was there
Yeah.
a period that go
Well, and
ahead.
also I forgot, I mean, I don't usually share it a lot, but earlier when I had left him originally, um, he had tried to, let's just say, leave this world,
Mm-hmm.
voluntarily. So I had a lot of guilt also wrapped up with all of this. And I couldn't believe, like, even when that happened, I had, gone. Actually, to go backtrack a little bit, I had left and literally packed up and left with the clothes on my back because he was drinking a lot. And to be honest, he was not in the right frame of mind. So I just left because I didn't feel safe. And I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I was in Montreal, actually. But when I found out what had happened to him, I, of course, flew right away back. But that's what he wanted, of course. But I would, of course, be there. But I remember, so I kind of went this almost like 3 times because when I got to the hospital, the doctor had told me at that point, which was a few years earlier, um, that he wouldn't make it through the night. And I was like, are you serious? This is not happening again. But it did actually happen a few years later, just due to some of his health issues. So, and died suddenly. So yeah, it was definitely,
Mm-hmm.
it was just surreal to feel like it's almost like being struck by lightning like twice. Cause like, I mean, I was young and I was only 44 when he passed away. When Mike, I'll give him a name. His name is Mike. So John passed away when I was 24, and then 44, I lose Mike. So it was, and the father of my daughter.
Yeah. So I mean, so this is the thing, and this is kind of what I want to highlight. So you've been through you've been through the ringer. I mean, that's a lot, you know. Um and then you arrive in this place in time, but it wasn't like, so these things happen, but that wasn't the end of it. That probably wasn't like the darkest part, because now you have to deal with that grief again, and you have to move through that. And I know in some of these places in here that you've probably had to, I can't imagine, but I'm going to, and I don't know the whole story. So, and that's why I like going into this, but I know when I went through my divorce, there was a whole lot of financial stuff.
Oh
And then
yeah.
you dealt with this, with, the death of your first husband, John. And you deal with a suit and leaving a home and trying to get your finances together the best you can after that. And then you enter into another situation where somebody's gambling and drinking and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's
So, and then he
huge.
passes away. What's left behind with this
Me and another
in your wake?
financial nightmare, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, funeral costs, like, I know that sounds like awful for me to say, but they are. First, I paid for an Italian funeral, and both my husbands were cremated. But at the end of the day, funerals cost a lot, and they're certainly not fun events to plan. And, I only started really healing through all of this probably myself, because I was more worried about my daughter, to be honest, getting through it. And yeah, the financial burden of the stuff that he left behind, because we weren't like, yeah, I had a lot of debt to deal with after he died, and then also being, completely, not that I ever asked him for much when he was here, but I was now completely, and I am still obviously completely on my own. I mean, my daughter's now 21 at least, but putting her through university. I actually put her through boarding school the last 2 years of her life. Not 2 years of her life, but sorry, 2 years of her student life. I don't, oh my God. Yeah. So the last 2 years of her student life, just because she was having difficulties with bullying at school. And, I was just worried about her running away from home and so on. So I want her to be safe. So I spent quite a bit of money just making sure she was safe. And still, you have psychotherapy, psychology, like all that stuff. My daughter likes to keep telling me that I need therapy. Not that I'm discounting therapy at all, but I said, I paid for yours, sweetie. Like there's nothing in the bank for me. So I'll just piggyback off you. But yeah, no, it's hard. Like it's definitely a hard process to go through, and it still is, because it almost feels like you're another person than you were before. But it's like, as I said, like a homesickness that you never really get over. And it's almost because like the first year when someone passes away, everybody's there, and they bring in food even though you don't want to eat it, and there are and sometimes it's annoying because people just say silly things because they don't know what to say, but they're there. And then after a couple months, they're not. So, and then the next year, you have Christmas and holidays and birthdays. So April 6th actually is the anniversary of John's passing in the vehicle accident, the motorcycle accident, which is coming up. And I always get, it triggers me. So yeah, it's all these dates like birthdays and Christmases and holidays, and that they're never going to be there again. So, but I do like to have that feeling in my heart that they are here with me, along for the ride, so to speak, with John. Like I like to think that. And, I do find, people kind of sometimes I think I have I don't know, they don't know what to make me, because I'll say like I have a Netflix kind of life, my life's not, it's a mini series and there's a sequel, just when you think it's done, there's another one. And people don't know what to make, but I'm like, you know what? I can't just be dark and depressed about it, because I mean, what are you going to do? And when I was widowed, no matter what you did, it was wrong anyway. So you cried too much, or too sad, or too depressed, or you were awkward, or you went away on vacation, or, you smiled, or you laughed at a joke. People are constantly judging you. So I was like, you know what? I have to find some humor in it. And anybody who's, gone through the pandemic this year, you watched a lot of Netflix, right? You're just like binging. Well, I still feel like I got another sequel probably, but hopefully a good one with a happy ending. But, yeah, I do feel like I definitely have a book to write. That's for sure. But right. I'd rather do Netflix.
The final act.
Yes, the final act. But, hopefully it's a good one. But yeah, wherever I end up, hopefully I'll be 101. I always say I'll be 101. So I still feel like I'm just turning 50 this year. So you're just,
it's intermission in the play. It's intermission. And then we're going to move to the second half of the play. So maybe you got a couple of acts left. You never know.
Yeah, I feel like something dramatic will still happen, but hopefully in a good way.
So, and the thing is about grief is a funny thing. And I think everybody, when you're processing grief, even though there's typical phases that you go through, but everybody handles it and processes it very differently. And for me, and the whole reason for this show is for me, when I'm processing and I'm trying to heal, for me, laughter is a part of that. Being able to laugh, even in it, it's fine, it's okay. And I can remember my aunt when her dad passed, and how upset she was. And my daughter was little, like maybe 2, but maybe not even quite 2. And I didn't have a choice. She had to come along with me to the services. So my son must have been in her. My son, so maybe she was 3, because my son must have been in school. So I brought her with me, and my aunt just held her the whole time. My daughter was drawn to her, and my aunt just held her and loved on her, and and she just was like, she's so bubbly in life and hope and promise. And so I think that in any situation, whether it's a trauma and if it's grief, there is the yin and the yang of the whole situation. And I think part of what we need to be allowed to do is just feel it all. And a lot
Exactly.
of times people try to tell us which way you should or should not do something. And I just don't think that really exists, you know? So,
But
um,
people do feel like there's a lot of strong feelings on how people perceive what you should be doing when you're grieving, even though they've never gone through it, most of them, other than maybe watching their grandparents pass. So um, it's really unfair. And I think especially for single mom or moms and young people, it's like there's more judgment than ever. There's so much judgment on single moms, let alone divorced moms. But then when you add that widowhood label to it, which is so bizarre because you're not, I remember going to a therapy group for widows, and I walked in and I walked out. I didn't mean to be rude, but everybody was like over 75. And I'm like, I really don't belong here. Um,
okay. And there again is a whole sector, right? Because here you are, 24 the first time, and relating to what you had to relate to compared to someone who may have lost someone later in life, not to diminish it, but the life experience is different. And the expectations, the cutting short of something so young, or whereas these people are mourning something that maybe they've had a relationship for 50 years, and their mourning is completely different. And so, yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I should say I can't imagine. I really can't
I was
imagine. But
very, very angry. Like I had a death wish on myself, but I mean, I remember feeling so angry when I left that room, for example, because I'm like, they shared a whole lifetime together, probably most of them, if not all of them. They had that life, or maybe it wasn't a white picket fence, but all the things that I wanted. I mean, I was even angry looking, I know this sounds crazy, but I live by the lake here, and I would see swans together. I'm like, damn, I'm even angry at the swans because they have each other. I mean, that sounds really bizarre, but I was just this is so not fair. And then even like a year or 2 later, with people you'd run into who for some reason didn't know, even it was all over the front news about John because he was young and the accident. Or people like they would say, "Oh, say hi to John." I'm like, I got so tired of it. I just would say he's dead. And I know that sounds awful, but it's just like I got so tired of explaining it to people. Like, I mean, if you were his friend, you would have probably known. But it
right,
just
right.
was awkward. And I just got tired of trying to make people feel comfortable. So I guess through laughter and making jokes, sometimes I would try to do that. And that sort of to make people feel a little bit, not that it really made them feel at ease, but that certainly wasn't a joke when I would tell people like, oh, he's dead. But, it was hard. Like, what else? I just got so exhausted of explaining it. And, it is what it is, right? And I didn't know. I said I would just leave and people would have their mouth drop, and I'm like, well, if you haven't called him in 2 years, like, whatever.
Hmm.
I know that's
So,
just what it is.
yeah. So before we move into the next part, because I know I want to get to like you moved through corporate world and you wound up in this blue skies, and I want to get to blue skies. But I'm going to take a minute to just, call out the people in the audience and thank people for being here and showing up. Let people know that in a little bit, we're going to allow you to jump on stage, engage, ask questions, join the conversation. So welcome Sonia, Ray, Wendy, Will, Dave, and maybe Sam I am is with him, William, Allison, Janie, Stacy, and Jackie. So I appreciate you guys being here. And kind of hanging out and listening to Kristina's story. And what I want to move into, Kristina, is just now what came next and what in this. Okay, so there's all this stuff. How did that? Where's the bridge of what are the things that you were able to hold on to that helped you heal and helped you move into and understand what your why is and how that led into BlueSkys?
That's a great question, Deanna. It's like kind of complex. I was working myself to death, and this was actually started. My health issue started when Mike was still alive, but I was, when I say literally working myself to death, I really was, because I had so much debt that he had it. And then of course even more after he passed. But so I was like working, I was doing a full-time job, I was freelancing, I was even teaching fitness. Like, it was nuts. And I was taking university courses. I honestly, when I look back, I don't even know how I did that. I only slept about 3 hours a night. And so I was like going down the escalator in downtown Toronto in the financial district, and I was supposed to be going for a meeting, and I just remember gripping that escalator rail, which is dirty and disgusting, which I normally never do. But I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fall down. And I thought, get it together, Kristina, like, hold on. And forgot, at least I held on until the bottom, because I can't even imagine falling down, like the metal, like what a mess I would be. But I literally did come face to floor with the bottom of the escalator on the floor there. And, I was, rushed off to the hospital. I just remember people like screaming, and I'm thinking like, what's the big deal? But then I realized I couldn't see. So I couldn't see anything. And not because I'd hit my head. I don't know. They really didn't know what had caused it. So I ended up in the hospital, and they did a whole plethora of tests. And this is maybe not the only reason. I think a lot of it was stress. It was trauma that had been unresolved, even from my first husband, I'm for sure. But I had a brain cyst. And then later I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, which I was in danger of having a stroke, because I was just putting myself under so much. Like, I'm a perfectionist by nature. So I'm a high achiever, but I couldn't resolve all these feelings, and I was just trying to bury them inside. And you do have to let them out, right? So it started manifesting not only internally. I was having migraines like every day. And I didn't know why. I just thought, oh, it's stress. You know how we always say, oh, it's stress. Well, stress is a big freaking deal. Like, it causes all the things that go on in our body, like everything from cancer to, having high blood pressure or collapsing or fainting. It's just a terrible thing. So it's not just stress. It's like, it's a disease as far as I'm concerned, because burnout is the result. And the World Health Organization has actually categorized burnout as, a health condition, a health issue. So that's what happened to me. And I first started using a lot of painkillers and all sorts of things. They wanted to do, they suggested surgery. I didn't do it because there was a risk of me losing my eyesight. And that time I was self-employed primarily. So I was like, I don't know. I can't see myself. I was a, art director and in branding and all that. I'm like, I can't do a job if I lose my eyesight. So I just started trying to manage it, which wasn't exactly good either, because I was prescribed, different sorts of medications, which are addictive. And one of my friends introduced me to cannabis. And I started using it before it was cool, before it was legal in Canada, because legalization really started here in Canada. But I was using primarily the CBD oil, like during the day, to manage my anxiety. I had anxiety just about having the pain or the migraines. I'm like, oh my God, every day, like, I'm going to get, like, that was part of it. And then the chronic pain, but also just relieved a lot of my stress. It helped me sleep. So that's how I found therapeutic cannabis. And I also discovered, because when I was really sick, it started manifesting in my skin, which, you can have all the stuff going on inside. People don't really know what's going on, and you can kind of hide it. But when it starts, I had eczema, I had like really bad acne from the stress. I I would call it anxiety acne coming out, and it was just embarrassing. And I tried all sorts of things. I had sensitive skin, so nothing, it just made it worse. And I would put tons of foundation on to cover it up. Of course, I made it even worse again. So I was embarrassed to show my face. And it really took, I was an introvert anyway, but it really took down my confidence. And I was, afraid to speak up at meetings because I thought everybody's going to stare at my face. And so it was just not a good feeling. And so later on, when I started using this CBD oil, I've been a therapeutic advocate for quite a few years. And, that's why I started working for a life science company before COVID, pre-COVID, public cannabis as well. So I'm not, not that I had judgment on recreational, but for me, therapeutic use and recreational use can be therapeutic at the end of the day as well. So, because laughter, we're talking about laughter here, it is probably definitely one of the things that naturally will give you the giggles if you eat something, especially an edible, which I do use once in a while. I cook with cannabis, for example. But I started using CBD oil on my skin, and I don't know what prompted. I know I was trying to remove some makeup, to be honest, and I was using it, and I thought, oh, I'll just take this. I needed something oily, and I took it off, and then I did it a couple times. And I noticed that my skin was much better. And I was like, what's going on here? Because most of the things I would use just inflamed it. Well, CBD is a natural anti-inflammatory. So that drew me to actually taking, being one of the first to graduate in Canada with the first course in Canada from McMaster University. So I studied the science of cannabis. And so during the pandemic, I'd always wanted to start my own skincare line and wellness line, because with tinctures and so on and gummies, but that's to be coming later in the year. But to start with something that would help women literally step into their skin with confidence and put their best face forward. And I really do believe in the power of natural ingredients, non-toxic ingredients, which include CBD. It's one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatories that you can find. And it has a healing quality to the skin. And so that's what prompted me to start it. And so that's the whole why behind BlueSkys, which I entwined in that because it was my talisman. And during COVID, I got laid off. So I got laid off. I was SVP of a public life science company for marketing communications. So I led a lot of the educational component, plus whole batch of regulatory. I was in charge of all the regulatory filings and PR, et cetera. And I was a spokesperson and literally the face of the company. But at least by then I had figured out how to deal with my skin. So I wouldn't want to be putting my best face forward. I was not comfortable. If I had looked the way I did like a few years earlier, there's no way I would have, hid from the cameras. I would have hid from, being public facing. And I would speak at some of these cannabis conferences that were here in Canada. But it really gave me more confidence, but it also gave me purpose and to make people feel better about themselves. And, it's not just the skincare. There's also so many other therapeutic uses for not just CBD, but cannabis as a whole. We have endocannabis. Oh, someone likes that comment. Yes. So, and laughter. I mean, my gosh, I even infuse my popcorn if I'm not feeling so great. And it does help me sleep, but it's one of the most therapeutic natural plants that has been illegal for so long, and we need a lot more studies on it. So I'm just very excited about what I'm doing. And that's a little bit about BlueSkys and the why behind it.
Yeah, and so and I think that it's important. And we had Dr. Rita, and I don't know if she's here. I know she's on Fireside, but we've talked about this too, because she's an advocate as well, for just making sure that people have access to the things that they need. This stuff can totally be medicinal. Let's just face it. And the fact that we have receptors, we have CB receptors, cannabinoid receptors in our receptors in our bodies, tells us that our bodies know what to do with it when we get it, as opposed to, the powdered cheese in your mac and cheese. Your body doesn't know what to do with that. Right. And so with this is the cool part. So I know that you have launched this and you're going into this and you decide, hey, I need to really figure out how I'm going to work this business. And you go to 10X Ladies in Miami.
Yes.
and you go to Elena Cordone's conference, and you tell us what happened. Just tell us that
Well,
story
I
real
mean,
quick, how
I'm
that
not going to
evolved for
say
you.
that, the Cardones, like, there's still some, what would I call education on that to be done in terms of cannabis and CBD. But I emailed them, and they were, at first, to be honest, not really receptive to the whole idea. And I just kept emailing and, pleasantly, I guess you could say, in their face. And I admire Elena Cardone immensely, and I love the 10X culture. That's, everybody has their opinions on it. But what I love about it is that it is full of, it's like hope is something where you have that light at the end of the tunnel. And Grant Cardone, I mean, they lost a lot during the crash of, I think it was 2008, and they kept going. So they were always been somebody that I wanted to be part of. And 10X Ladies was just amazing. So my French green clay mask, and that's a treatment that also comes with his facial oil, like a CBD facial oil. So it's more like a treatment. So it detoxes your skin and then, replenishes and hydrates and soothes and calms. So yeah, so that was featured. The French clay mask was featured in her 10X Diamond swag bag, which is a premier entrepreneur conference for women. And the level that the diamond bags were given out was to the women who'd paid $15,000 to be there. So they were a very elite bag. So I was very, very honored. And I didn't even know how big a deal it was until people kept coming up to me to congratulate me or learn more about what I was doing. So it definitely was a little feather in my hat, because I just launched the products at Christmas of 2021. So, and here I am in February 2022, 2 months later. And, through persistence and, just believing in what you do, I got my product featured in her bag. So that was I said, a huge win for me. Some people don't know who 10X Ladies are. If you don't know who they are, you got to know who they are. And if you're a woman, you definitely got to go. 10X and Grant Cardone, and Elena's now championing women and putting them for, like, having a focus so we all have a voice. So I love what she's doing, and I was so honored and so proud to have my product featured there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a big deal because it allows you to have the exposure that you need to be able to spread your why, a little bit further, so that people can get to know you and this amazing product that you offer. And also the fact that your product is not just about external beauty. Like the fact that you have this story behind it and saying, yeah, you know what, you need to treat yourself externally, but these tinctures and these things all allow you to heal internally as well.
Exactly.
So that's
out. I didn't mean to interrupt, but beautiful inside out, beautiful made well.
right. So Wendy's asking a question, and we can open this up now to the audience, so that, if you guys want to jump up here and ask some questions. I know that this was just in February, I think you said, was when you went to Miami?
Yes. And my fifth
Of this year, right?
Pardon me?
Yes,
of this year. So, I mean, it was a lot of, planning and getting the manufacturing in order and fulfillment center and all that. So there was, even just interviewing different formulators and to help me, because I have a science degree, but I also need to ensure that there's shelf life and everything is safe and FDA compliant and certificates of analysis. So all my products actually contain the CBD that they say they do, not like a lot of other products that are on the shelves which do not contain any CBD.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to Wendy here. Wendy jumped up, and Wendy, she's a brand strategist. She's amazing at, bringing products to market. She wants to know what's happened since then. So talk to us, Wendy.
Yeah, well, hey, great show, Deanna. Hi, it's Kristina, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so is it Jackie or Kristina? Who am I talking to? Kristina. Okay, so I use cannabis. And I have used cannabis because I'm for cancer and for treatments and for illness and for nausea and for sleep and all that good stuff. And I grew cannabis back in the 80s in Oregon when it was partially not against the law. And I think that I was just wondering, so I was so curious about, and since then, over the past 30 years, just so I can set it up for you a little bit, I have helped many innovators and inventors navigate the waters of bringing a product to market. That's where I ended up in life. Okay. So I'm very curious to ask you a couple of questions, because what happened after you went? So you went to Miami, and that was with the Cardone, the 10X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's happened since? Because did to go there and do that, did you have to get all your manufacturing together, like you said, and everything that you have to do? It's very expensive.
Yes, it is. I won't lie. I literally put skin in the game to get my products to market. Now, I already had them ready to go. So, I mean, it was the one product that was featured there, which I said was the French green clay mask, which has shea butter, green tea, and all sorts of other wonderful plant power, along with the CBD facial oil. But I have for example, I have a facial serum, which is isolate CBD, and then I have other products of the full spectrum, like the one I just mentioned, the CBD oil and facial oils. I have ones that are combined with tea tree, rose oil, but there's full spectrum, like the whole plant, and a deep tissue moisturizer as well, so I have a list of basically of 5 products that are ready, or they're available to buy in the United States, BlueSkysBeauty.com, and there'll be gummies and nutraceuticals coming out in the next few months. So I'm super excited about that, because in the tinctures as well, because I really do beautiful. I mean, I believe, your skin is your reflection of your health. Am I still, wanting to get more visibility, and it's difficult because you're not allowed to advertise on Facebook or traditional Google ads.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to ask you. So I totally get where you're going. I mean, I miss like banana marketer. I mean, I can market anything. Why I'm asking you these very these questions is, so can you explain to me what the value of going to the 10X was for you as a new product, person? I that's what I want to understand.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I did go to 10X primarily not because my product was featured there. I went there because I really wanted to know what this conference was about and meet other, female entrepreneurs or businesswomen, and really just kind of take it in, because I'd never been to a 10X conference. So I didn't go there with that intent primarily in mind. But then I remember hearing Elena Cardone on Clubhouse saying, oh, if you want, and it's not an easy process to get selected. So it just happened that I was able to get my product in there. The value of it, I mean, it's definitely a visibility. It gives you some credibility. Would it change my whole, trajectory of my business? But it gives me credit. Like, also, it's been featured in couple of my products have been featured in American Spa magazine as well. So, I mean, it's a very young product. It's still growing, literally. So,
right. So did you learn brand strategy, or did you learn how to, so you went to a conference where they featured your product, which was awesome. I'm assuming that everybody there was networking, like valuable people to network. So that's kind of what the 10X means. I don't know. I've never gone to one. But I'm assuming that you get 10 times the something in the amount of time that you're there because of the power that is in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like I won't go on too much about 10X Ladies itself, but it's really about 10Xing your life, 10Xing your business.
Yeah.
So multiplying, your mindset. It's an all-encompassing conference. So it's not where everybody stands and has booths or something. I just did that at the international.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So did you learn something valuable that you can share with all of us as far as your next step was in bringing your product to market, especially with so many different SKUs and in such an interesting category?
I would say the conference was like targeted to tell me what to do, particularly as a brand strategy, because it wasn't like about a product development. That's not what the conference was.
It was just exposure.
Yeah, it was exposure, but I mean, I will share a quote that stuck with me, there's probably quite a few I could think of, but really, I think Elena Cardone, I love what she said, you're building your empire, and I'm probably going to butcher her quote, but either you're building your empire or you're destroying it. And that's not necessarily to do with my products, but it's about a mindset. It's about your daily life. It's about reflecting your brand. It's about who you hang out with. And, something like 10X Ladies, you're being exposed to an elevated group, an elevated mindset, which my company to me is all about elevating well-being and helping women reprioritize self-care, because that's very important to me, because I did not take care of myself. And I only came to that conclusion when I was there, because I was actually doing one of her masterminds. And I'm like, it's not about just the external, but it's about feeling good inside. So when I help women, it doesn't matter what age you are, and beauty has no age as far as I'm concerned. Laugh lines are good. I'm turning 50, as I said. So it is really about embracing the skin you're in, being confident in it. We're not to say that we're always confident every moment of the day. But it's really about embracing who you are and the skin you're in, and putting your best face forward, and not sabotaging your empire. You got to build it step by step or brick by brick. But if you start doing things like doubting yourself constantly, believe me, I have my moments.
So it's it's an inspiration. It's aspirational. It's inspirational.
It's not like a tactical conference. No.
Yeah. Well, that's a little too bad. I think it would be awesome if there was one that was like part inspirational, aspirational, and then the other part was, okay, here's some tactical advice, right?
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's more of a technical workshop. And I find most of his stuff, there is definitely sales components and stuff like that they do teach, and they're very specific. But that conference, it is about mindset, it's about motivation, it's about connecting with other people that might be able to take you to the next level. So I did make some connections.
Right. I think one of the big things about the conference is being in the room with some of the people that can be those diamonds that because those people are the, maybe a little bit more of the influencers that could pick up on something. And even if nothing came out of it, like immediately from there, the fact that it's in their bag, it's only been a month or a month and a half. The fact that it's in their bag is something that allows you to have further, that exposure is down the road even still, because you don't know if they've pulled that out and put it on the counter and traveled, and now they're going to come home and go, oh, you know what? It's time for some self-care. Let me put this mask on.
And not a face mask like that we've been wearing all this time. But and on that note too, I should be following up with Elena too. So all those things are just touch points, and it's like saying when you get on a television show or something, are you going to have immediate sales? Maybe, and maybe not. It's just really about credit.
If you're on a Wendy show, you will.
I'm on your website right now, Kristina. I really like it. I'm looking at your product, because I would love to use it, I think.
Oh, I'd love to hear your feedback too. Yeah, I would. You can always shoot me a message if you have questions.
Okay.
And just so people know, I dropped her website into the fortune cookie, so that you guys can, click there and go see it. Jackie's up here too. Jackie is somebody both Kristina and I met through a mastermind that we did together, and she stayed up late for us because she's in the UK. And so, Jackie, if you want to unmute yourself, if you have something you want to add, do you have something you want to ask, share, whatever?
Maybe she fell.
Unless Jackie fell asleep. Jackie, are you with us? Let me unmute you. She
Here,
probably doesn't know
her.
that I'm
Let me
muted
knock her. I'm right
One
next
second.
to her. Yeah, listening intently. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Kristina, and I must honor your story. That's a really powerful story that you've shared. So thank you for sharing that. It's a lot that you've been through. And it's so awesome that you are moving from really high level corporate into, your own wonderful brand inspired by all that you've been through.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to, and thank you to all of anyone who listened. Blue skies and rainbows, right? So life's not all puppy dogs and rainbows and unicorns, but blue skies, and when the light hits it the right way, you do have a full spectrum of colors. And it's a beautiful thing. So life is a beautiful thing, even then when it's dark and stormy outside. So thank you for listening. Blue skies are always there.
And did you, and actually I'm interested, I mean, you've been through a lot, and I was hearing that you were mentioning that, there's certain aspects of your past and your story, the really devastating, traumatic elements that you don't talk about very often. And, telling your daughter, it was only a few years ago, actually, in 2016, but, do you feel, in terms of life after trauma or laughter after trauma, as Diana presents for us, did you find that focusing on the business and sort of taking your learnings of, helping yourself with cannabis and so on, and then sort of channeling it into not just ingestibles, but products for the skin, but from an element of, or from an angle, from what I'm hearing, it's not just beauty on the outside, is it? It's an inside out. Has that been, in terms of sort of stepping into your fuller purpose, has that been healing for you?
Yes, definitely it has been, because it gives you purpose and mission, and whether women buy my products or not. But if I can inspire women who are going through a hard time, I feel that is part of my purpose as well, is to say you can step into your skin, literally and figuratively, even though when you have gone through really shitty times, like dark times. And I hope to give hope to people. That's one of my biggest missions. And I didn't talk about this, but I also started dancing when I was younger at 24. A lot of people don't know this either. I was a professional. When I say I was a professional belly dancer, I really was. I toured, I got paid for it, and I taught for 20 years. A lot of people didn't know that, because I used to hide it because I was in corporate. But I used to do these I used to shake it. I can still shake and shimmy, and I'll shake and shimmy until I'm like dead. So it's always in me, and I have these beautiful wings, and I have a lot of silks and stuff, and so I can fly. I can literally fly into the blue sky. That's how I would envision it. But a lot of women, I held a lot of fundraisers for the Halton Women's Shelter here in Burlington, Ontario, and I had the shows where I would have professionals that I had met in New York or whatever, but I also had my students and other students that would complement the show, because I wanted to showcase real women and have them embrace the bodies they're in, embrace who they are, embrace their age, step into their skin, dance into their skin, and feeling good about themselves. And one of the women that came up to me, really, I'll never forget it, and it touched my soul. She said, she was just watching it, and she was a larger woman and a bit older, and she goes, for the first time, I felt beautiful. And that really touched me, because you know what? Like, if you can make someone feel good about themselves, that's to me a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you were dancing as well, and sort of integrating that. And yeah, look, I mean, self-esteem, isn't it? If we sort of get up and we keep going. I mean, you guys know that I'm working as a coach, and also a lot of the work is trauma informed, from when actually my brother died on a motorbike as well. I was 16. It's a completely different story, I appreciate, but I often look also to my parents who, kept on going after they had lost their son, my brother. And I disassociated, actually. I couldn't cry at the time, so I didn't process in real time. I did that sort of later on. But my dad was always said to me, whatever you do, keep a sense of humor. And my mother has always been a dancer, funny enough. And we know that sort of like dancing, shaking, is a sort of trauma release. It's thank you, Chris. So it's yeah, I know we're talking about your beauty product, which is wonderful, but I think, the whole essence of your story and sort of that processing, and it takes time, doesn't it? I was listening to someone the other day who was talking about that, it's not that, we have situations that happen in life, we heal ourselves or sort ourselves out, and then we carry on. It's all happening all of the time. And oftentimes we are wearing a mask, like you said, figuratively, or literally, we're okay. We might have people that we want to share things with, and that can be very helpful. But, do we want to be doing that the whole time? Perhaps not, for others as well as ourselves. So we're sort of carrying on with our lives. We're processing if we can, and perhaps getting help with that. And, if we're able to step into our purpose at the same time, it all kind of interweaves with each other, doesn't it? So we're connecting to our truth and our true purpose and processing and creating. And I think that's life. And, if we can do that consciously, that is part of the healing circle, creative circle, the consciousness circle of life. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing, and Kristina, and I think it's going to be really well. I think your story is so compelling. There's a lot of people. I mean, I personally haven't sort of entered into that world myself, but it's obviously, it's a way that has obviously helped you and then many, many other people, and it's a growing area. So I think it's a growth area for the next decade, as after everything, goodness knows, personal experience, but also over the last couple of years, so many people have been through trauma and will relate.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jackie. I think that these past 2 years have been difficult, and I think that most people can relate to some level of anxiety or trauma. And, I think to the point of Kristina is there's some key takeaways that I found in you telling your story and the things that you've been through. And one of the things that I think you leaned into in order to start healing is self-care. And that you didn't do that when you were really falling apart. And it's very difficult to do that in that moment. But when you came to that realization, that becomes part of your healing process. And so I think that that's a takeaway that I think people need to know. If you want to get to your laughter, one of the things is taking care of yourself. And that is from the inside out, like you said. So it is really important that people recognize that and they tap into that. And if you know that intellectually, then you can kind of intentionally do that on purpose, The other thing is that you started to realize when you came through that, part of something that you wanted to do was to make sure others understood that too. And so you wanted to inspire others to be able to do that as well. And then thirdly, spread the hope in the fact that, hey, if I can do this and I have something tangible to offer you to help you along your way and give you hope. We know as women, I think, I don't think this is necessarily far different from men, but for women, there's a lot of attention given to your hair, to your face, to your, you take this whole process of how you take care of all of that. And it is part of your self-confidence. It is part of your self-esteem. And if you don't take care of it like that, you will feel that, like you said, if you're introverted already, you're going to feel that even more if you feel like you're going to be judged or that you're not presenting yourself the way you want to present yourself. And it's not about necessarily other people. It's about how you feel when you present yourself.
Well,
and you feel better. You feel better when you look good, or you got your favorite shirt on, or whatever it is. So that was the takeaways that I had in here. And I don't know, is there anything else you want to share? Am I on point
Definitely
with this?
on point, because when you feel good, you look good, you feel good. It's like it's a cyclical sort of loop. If you feel good on the outside, you'll feel good on the inside. If you feel good on the inside, you feel good on the outside. And self-care is not all about bubble baths and all that, although I do sell CBD bath bombs, but it's about taking time for you, taking care of your skin, taking care of or having that time to sit in the bath with your CBD bomb and just self-reflect, or have the candles going. I mean, obviously there's all sorts of aspects to well-being, but if you can't take some downtime, and as moms, especially single moms, but all moms, I mean, we're working often, we're taking care of the children. And then we have the societal pressure on what we should be or what we should look like, but it has to come from within, and you have to feel good in your own skin. And you don't, it doesn't mean that you have to meet societal standards of what you should look like. I mean, my God, there's filters on everything nowadays, but it's just feeling good. It's feeling good about you and having a well-being too. And for me, being on painkillers, for example, I mean, that really screwed up a good portion of my life as not only a person, but a mother. And when I discovered, okay, I'm not saying, plants over pills necessarily, but maybe you can reduce your use, or, you're doing something that's alternative, and it shouldn't be necessarily the last resort. But at the end of the day, when you're looking after your inside of your body, you're looking after the outside, because I said before, your skin is really a reflection of your health, and your skin is the largest organ on your body. People don't think about that. And we think about what we put in.
And it's our first defense.
Exactly. It is. It's what holds us all together. And what we put into our bodies, everybody's like, okay, I drink this and I eat this. That's so, so important. But what you put on your skin too, up to 60% of that is absorbed into your bloodstream. So you are also what you put on your body. So if you're putting all sorts of parabens and phthalates and PFAs and all sorts of other toxins, that's going into your bloodstream too. So you have to think about what you put on your body, what you put in your body, and what you put it up here. Your mindset. You can always have, you're going to have dark times. We're all going through probably some dark times, even just coming out of COVID, with trauma, anxiety, financial loss. But if you can have a blue sky mindset, it'll help you.
I love it. A blue sky mindset. Okay. So I appreciate that. Jackie, I muted you because I was getting a little feedback on the microphone. I don't know if there's anybody else in the audience that has any questions. If not, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for a little bit over the hour. I like to try to keep it close to an hour, but I also want it to just flow naturally so people can be part of the conversation as well. I truly appreciate you coming here, Kristina. It was a great interview. I think that, people need to go out, check out her website, and check out her products, because part of our self-care, and I think that's one of the things you brought up with like moms. I don't care if it's moms, if you're self-employed, if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business, all of these things, they start to consume you, and you forget to take the time to do the things you need to do. Wash your face real good and give yourself a little spa treatment in the, at the end of the day or whatever. So just even that, just tapping into the products to be able to use them even in your self-care time, it becomes an all-encompassing, let's say, time zone, right?
Yeah, me time.
So, me time. I love it.
And stay tuned to the skincare and the Irish CBD bath bombs, as I mentioned, but there will be some inside products, as I said, as well, coming soon, the nutraceuticals, gummies, and tinctures as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I want people to know where they can reach Kristina. So we got your website. Tell us any of your social media handles so that people know where to find you if they need to maybe hit you up in the back chat or something like that in the messages. Where's the best way to find you?
You can find me on Instagram, of course, Blue Sky with a Y, add an S, Life. So Blue Sky's Life. On Facebook, Instagram, and you can reach me under my name, Kristina with a K, Shea like the, because I'm supposed to be going out to a late movie. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, Kristina with a K, Shea like the butter, and you can also reach. He's trying to pick me up. So with that, you can reach out to me, and if you can't reach me for any reason, reach out to Deanna. But you can definitely find me on all those channels.
Right. And me, you can find me right here on Instagram as well. And I just want to say again, thank you, Kristina. We're going to wrap up the show here. I know you got somewhere to be. And we're going to peace out. We're going to bring the weight bot up. If you guys want to reach out, go ahead and reach out. Until then, I want to let you guys know I see you, especially you, Kristina. I see you. And you truly are a beautiful person. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And love and light to everyone. And have a blue sky day tomorrow. So even if it's cloudy out, have a blue sky day.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.